Hi, my name is Adiri Zanskinir. Welcome to the Healthcare Stage, the go-to podcast for innovators dedicated to enhancing health and wellness globally. In each episode, we dive into insightful conversations with those at the forefront of healthcare innovation. This episode is dedicated to a conversation with Samer Abboud, the CEO of SwiftDuct, an Israeli medical device company established in 2020. SwiftDuct develops a solution for endoscopic retrograde cholangio-pancreatography, or ERCP in short. It is an endoscopic procedure used to identify the presence of stones, tumors, or narrowing in the biliary and pancreatic ducts. SwiftDuct is developing an innovative navigation solution for easier, faster, and safer ERCP, which can potentially reduce occurrence of post-ERCP pancreatic inflammation, shorten the duration of the procedure, and minimize the need for fluoroscopy. Their system currently under development is composed from two elements. The first is a catheter with unique bending capabilities which enhance maneuverability in challenging anatomies. The second is a guidewire equipped with sensors allowing the gastroenterologist conducting the procedure to know the location of the catheter and subsequently to reduce trial and error attempts, reduce inflammation, and thereby to mitigate substantial healthcare costs and patient suffering. If successful, SwiftDuct solution will benefit over 2 million patients undergoing ERCP annually. Up until now, the company raised $1.2 million and was able to successfully demonstrate the technology proof of concept in preclinical trials. The company is currently raising capital to support ongoing development and regulatory submission in the US. If you're an investor interested in new investment opportunities in the MedTech space, this podcast is for you. It is my absolute pleasure to host Samer Abboud, the CEO of SwiftDuct. Samer brings a wealth of experience from the medical device industry, having worked extensively in business development, sales, marketing, and customer support. His background as a biomedical engineer, combined with his substantial hands-on management experience, spans both global companies and small startups in the medical device sector. Hi, Samer.
Hi, Adi. It's a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. So tell us something about yourself.
So I'm 39 years old. I'm with background in biomedical engineering and business. I'm married to Hazar, and we have two kids, Nissan, 6 years old, and Majd, who's 6 months old. I have experience in the medical device industry, more than 15 years, in various positions, field positions, management positions from big corporates and small companies. And since last February, I'm managing SwiftDuct, which we're going to expand about in a minute.
Fantastic. So tell us about the establishment of the company. How did everything start?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story. I mean, SwiftDuct was founded back in 2020. It all started in a program called the By Design. It's a program that was initiated in Stanford University and adopted by two medical centers in Israel, Rambam and Hadassah Medical Center, where our company started with 3 doctors in Hadassah and the Hebrew University. This program is bringing people from different disciplines. In our case, it was a biomedical engineer, a medical doctor, and a business manager, and try to lead them through the whole development life cycle of medical devices. And our founding team took this program seriously, and by the end of the program, they had to submit a project. And they went to Hadassah and interviewed several doctors. One of the doctors pointed at ERCP, and he pointed at a specific unmet clinical need. And then the company started, digging into the different optional solutions. And the founders presented this idea or company to a manager in Boston Scientific, who introduced the founders to Medix, which is an incubator in Israel. And then the company joined Medix and started back in 2020.
You guys are developing a new solution aimed to improve an endoscopic procedure called ERCP. Please explain our audience what is this procedure and who are the patients that are in need for this procedure.
Yeah, so ERCP is actually a very common procedure in gastroendoscopy. It's not very well known to the public, but it's done very frequently in the hospitals. ERCP aiming to open blockages in the bile duct or in the pancreatic ducts. That's the main aim of ERCP.
And who are the patient that needs to be diagnosed and treated with this procedure? What do they typically suffer from?
So usually it's old patients that suffer from blockages in the bile duct or the pancreatic duct, and the blockages can be caused by either blocking stone or by a tumor. It can be a malignant or benign tumor that blocking the ducts.
So how is this procedure done nowadays?
So today the procedure is done by the doctor inserting an endoscope from the mouth through the stomach, all the way passing the stomach to the first part of the intestine. It's called the duodenum. In the wall of the duodenum, there's an opening that is usually, let's say, used to pour those juices, the bile juice and pancreatic juice, into the duodenum, helping with the digestion. So doctors go upward from this opening in the wall of the duodenum to the bile and the pancreatic ducts. It's important to say that this procedure has 2 stages. So the first stage is actually a diagnostic stage where doctors needs to insert or enter into the specific duct in order to diagnose what's the problem in the duct. And then a second stage, after diagnosing the problem or the root cause of the problem, treating the problem, either by getting the stone out or by putting a stent in order to open the blockage.
And during this procedure, physicians typically use fluoroscopy or contrast materials?
Yeah, fluoroscopy is very frequently used in this procedure. It's important to say that in the first part, in the diagnostic part of the procedure, they are very careful of using fluoroscopy because they do not want to get any, let's say, contrast material touching or entering into the pancreatic duct. So they are very careful about using contrast in this initial stage. But yes, generally, the cannulation or entering the ducts is done heavily under fluoroscopy.
And the majority of the time, the physicians wishes to reach with his endoscope the bile duct, right?
Yeah, in vast majority of the times, more than 80 to 90%, the problem is within the bile duct itself. So reaching the bile duct is the main, let's say, issue or problem in this procedure, usually because bile duct doctors need to take a sharp corner in order to enter the bile duct.
So what are the main limitations with this procedure?
So there are 2 main limitations of this procedure. The first limitation we call blindness, that after doctors enter the opening in the duodenum, they are totally blind. They don't actually see what is behind this opening. And the second limitation or the second problem in this procedure is the complicated anatomy that can be in several patients and the variance between anatomies across patients. So you can see different shapes of anatomies, different angles of bile duct and pancreatic duct, etc. And this is posed a great challenge for doctors to successfully enter those ducts, and specifically to young doctors or fellows who are just beginning their trainings or who are getting, initial part of their training, they're having hard time to reach the bile duct.
So the fact that they are a little bit blind and the anatomy may change from one patient to the other makes them repeat or make several attempts to reach the bile duct most of the time, right?
Yes, so if we imagine the procedure itself, so basically the doctors are blind and they try to cannulate the bile duct or try to enter the bile duct. So how do they do that? Usually through error and trial. So they push a something called a guidewire. It's basically a wire. They push it into the different ducts. And then after pushing the wire and the wire gets into a specific duct, they do not know which duct it is. They do a fluoroscopy or X-ray, and then they see where is the wire ended up to. And in many cases, the wire is unintendedly or mistakenly going towards the pancreatic duct, which is not good. It increases the risk for developing a pancreatic inflammation. And in this error trial, they are in many times bumping against the duct walls while trying to insert the bile duct. So all this, let's say, error and trial phase taking lots of time, and it carries risks of complications. Among them, the most important complication or the most severe complication is pancreatitis, which is a pancreatic inflammation.
So what are the problems you wish to solve with your device?
So our device comes to solve the two major issues that we spoke about, the blindness and the complicated anatomy. Our navigation kit has two elements or two features. Okay, the first feature is the catheter. Our catheter has a unique bending to the distal nose of the catheter, allowing, overcome complicated anatomy. Basically, it gives superior maneuverability to the doctors in order to cannulate the ducts easier, faster, and safer. So for overcoming complicated anatomies, we have the catheter, which is called the SwiftDuct. And the second element that we have is the SwiftGlide, which is a smart sensor-based guide wire that has a sensor on its distal edge. And when inserted into the ducts, and the ducts has, of course, the fluids, bile fluid, pancreatic fluid that we spoke about. When inserted into the ducts, the sensors start feeling the surrounding fluids. And based on the electrical properties of those fluids, we can give doctors guidance towards the right duct, and we can give alerts if they are heading towards the wrong duct, let's call it.
So Samer, what are the expected clinical and economical benefits, assuming your development is successful?
So we believe that our devices, through helping reducing the time of the error and trial and bumping against the walls, will be able to reduce the risk for developing pancreatitis after the procedure. So that's the first thing. The second thing is we will be able to significantly reduce the time that is needed to successfully cannulate or reaching the desired duct. And through that, we'll be able to reduce the amount of fluoroscopy or X-ray that the patients are exposed to, and also the healthcare givers or healthcare providers around the patient that are exposed to.
Right.
And on the economical aspect, reducing the risks of developing pancreatitis will probably reduce the readmissions and all the pancreatitis related costs, which is the hospitalization, staff, and given medications, and even sometimes doctors put stent to reduce the risk for pancreatitis. So all this will be able to be saved, and that's a great economical impact. And reducing the time of the procedure will allow the hospital to operate more patients a year. And this is also a great economical benefit for the hospital and be able to treating more patients and save costs.
Okay, let's see a short movie describing the utilization of the system.
ERCP is an endoscopic procedure to evaluate and treat issues with the biliary or pancreatic ducts. It's conducted more than 2 million times annually. Gaining access to the bile duct is a prerequisite for most procedures. The critical stage begins with the surgeon blindly inserting a guide wire through a common passage that splits into 2 ducts. This challenge of navigating the guide wire into the desired branch is often unsuccessful, resulting in recurring attempts to acquire access, unintentionally bumping against the duct walls, which could lead to inflammation that requires patient admission for supervision, increasing recovery time and cost, and even possible mortality. SwiftDuct is developing a technology intended to assist surgeons in accessing the bile ducts safely, efficiently, quickly, and cost-effectively. This technology is designed to reduce the risk of pancreatic inflammation, minimize the need for contrast injections, and limit radiation exposure. SwiftDuct's solution includes 2 complementary devices to address this challenge. SwiftTome, a superior catheter with an exceptionally flexible bending tip for increased guidewire maneuverability, and SwiftGlide, a smart guidewire that uses advanced sensors for easy navigation, overcoming the blindness challenges posed by ERCP procedures. SwiftDuct's solution is compatible with any standard duodenoscope. When the papilla is located, the SwiftTome's superior navigational properties allow for a swift and safe ambulary cannulation. When SwiftGlide is inserted, its sensor tip extends into the fluid within the duct. The chemical composition of this fluid is unique and dependent on its origin. By measuring the conductivity of the medium, the device can reveal the source of the secretion and its location in real time. This information is continuously transmitted to the physician, allowing informative navigation of the SwiftHome's flexible tip. To maintain a safe, smooth, and direct path to the bile duct, guiding the surgeon to a safer outcome, SwiftDuct Navigation Kit is designed to reduce complications and costs, decrease contrast injection and radiation, and shorten the procedure and recovery time. SwiftDuct, advanced navigation solution for easier, faster, and safer ERCP procedures.
Okay, let's talk about the technology. How are you able to improve the maneuverability of the physician to allow him or her to know they are located in the right duct?
So let's speak about the navigation kit that we are developing. So the navigation kit has two elements, actually. The first element is the SwiftHome, which is a catheter. And professionally, it's called the sphincterotome. It's a catheter with a unique bending to its nose, right? Only 7 or 8 millimeters on the distal tip of the catheter. This nose we can bend in a sharp angle of 90 degrees. And when using this catheter, doctors will be able to overcome complicated anatomies and tough corners that the bile duct may have in specific patients and specific anatomies. So that's the first thing. Combining it with the guidewire, sensor-based guidewire that we develop with the sensors on the distal edge, will be able to allow doctors to actually see what's happening beyond the opening of the duodenal wall. So now they do not see where they are heading to or where navigating to. In real time, we give them indications about their anatomical positioning and thus eliminate this blindness of the procedure, allowing them to easier and faster and smoother go towards the bile duct and not basically saving this phase of error and trial until they reach successfully the bile duct.
So the identification of the duct results from the electrical properties of the fluid you have in the two different ducts, right? In the bile duct and the pancreatic duct.
Yeah, so if we to imagine it for a second, so we start with a common duct, a common tube or pipe, okay, that then splits at some point, which we don't know when, into two ducts. The first duct going to the pancreas and the second duct going to the liver.
Yeah.
And the liver and the pancreas has two separate fluids. The liver is secreting the bile fluid and the pancreas is secreting the pancreatic fluid. They flow in those two separate ducts, and then at some point they unified into a one duct. So if to imagine it, we're going the opposite way, first from the common channel, and then if we detect that the doctor is aiming or he is heading towards the bile duct, we give alerts at some point that, okay, you are going the wrong way. And then doctors retreat, go back, they aim towards the right duct, and then after aiming, we'll be able to give him green light that you are going the right way. So keep going. That's the essence or the basics of the solution.
And this is all IP protected, right?
Yes, we have a pending patent application with a priority date since June 2019. We are now in national phase in several countries, and those countries are the most important countries for our business.
So let's talk about the preclinical work you generated.
So we did several proof of concept validation, let's say, steps. We dealt with lab models and we dealt with animal studies. If to speak about the SwiftHome and the tests that we did on the SwiftHome, so we created different kind of lab models trying to imitate various anatomies that doctors can face in their work. And through those models, we showed superiority over industry standard products or catheters. So we first handed the experienced endoscopist industry standard product. He tried to cannulate. He finds difficulties. He sometimes fails. And with our device, we showed that we are superior, specifically when taking sharp corners and tough anatomies. And then we moved to animal studies, and we used the pig model. In pig, we found a challenging junctions that we asked doctors to try to cannulate and take. And again, here with industry standard products, the doctors failed in 20 minutes attempts and 20 times. And when we handed him our SwiftHome, it just reached this corner, do the bending to the nose, and could cannulate in less than 3 minutes. So that's as far as SwiftHome testing. For the SwiftGlide, we started initially with same type of tests in lab models using synthetic fluids that we could purchase from like companies that deal with this. And we could show that our sensors can differentiate between bile and pancreatic juice. We did not stop there. We went again to animals and we used again the pig model. The main issue with pig model is that it has separate channels for bile and for pancreatic ducts. So we entered first the pancreatic duct and we entered later on the bile duct, and we proved that we could see totally different values in those two channels, and we proved that we could differentiate between bile and pancreatic juices in pigs, but we did not stop there. We wanted to challenge ourselves more. We proved that even we can identify transition between fluids. So we can move from like one pure fluid to a mixed juice environment to another pure fluid, and we can even identify those movements or those transition areas within fluids.
What is the current stage of development?
Yeah, so again, if to speak about the two elements that we have in the navigation kit, with the catheter, we are just about to finish the R&D and move to the V&V phase. We believe that by the end of this year, we'll be able to be in the verification and validation phase. And with the sensor, we are now optimizing, let's say, the components of the sensors in order to deal with various type of patients and various type of fluids. We are running an ex vivo pilot clinical trial, and we always collect data in order to ensure that our parameters or our sensors can deal with all the patients all the times.
So you collect fluids from patients, bile duct and pancreatic duct, and then you work on your sensors.
Yeah, correct. So if to imagine it, we are present in ERCP cases. We take those fluids from the doctors, and we check our sensors with these fluids. And we see that with the patients, with the data that we collected from 3 sites in Israel, Sheba Medical Center, Rambam Medical Center, and Galil Medical Center in Nahariya, we show that we have good differentiation between those 3 types of fluid: pure bile duct, pure bile juice, pure pancreatic juice, and a mixed juice from the papilla that is a mixed bile and pancreatic juice. So our sensors can detect between those 3 fluids, and our aim is to keep collecting data in order to make sure that we optimize the parameters of the sensors, allowing them to be accurate for all patient situations and all types of fluids.
So what is the expected regulatory route for the sensor and for the catheter?
So of course, as far as regulation, we are consulting with experienced consultants about the regulatory path. According to the feedback that we got, both products can be, or both elements can be regulated or cleared under 510K route without the need of clinical data. But of course, we want to validate that through communication with the regulators, and but the basic assumptions that this is our route.
But in essence, you intend to generate clinical data in the US, right?
Yes, I mean, generating clinical data will, as I said, probably not be needed for the regulatory purposes, but it will be needed for the buy-in of the healthcare community and to show that we are bringing clinical value to the ERCP procedure, and we'll believe that doctors will be kind of believing us only after they see it in their eyes, they use it in their hands, and they recognize that yes, our devices are superior over existing devices in the market as far as all the elements that we spoke about: reducing the time, saving fluoroscopy, and also reducing the risk for developing post-ERCP pancreatitis.
Samer, please give us an overview of upcoming milestones.
Okay, so if to speak about the two elements in our navigation kit, the first element is the catheter, which is called the SwiftDuct. So with the SwiftDuct, we can finish the V&V by end of this year, and for the next year, we can be after already first in human trials and FDA clearance with the catheter itself. And after the FDA clearance, we'll be able to do a kind of tasting of the market and start initial sales in the US. And with a sensor guide wire, which called the Swift Glide, we will be able to do complete our R&D phase in the next year, finish the V&V. By beginning of 26, we will start our first in man or first in human clinical trial. And we believe that by end of 26, we can already be after FDA clearance for the Swift Glide, and we start initial sales also.
So by 2026, you will have a kit composing both the catheter and the sensors.
Indeed. So after having both features or elements cleared, we are planning to combine those into one kit that will provide the full clinical value for the doctors and for the patients.
Let's talk about your market. How many ERCP procedures are conducted annually in Europe and in the US? How is it reimbursed nowadays?
So according to the estimates, more than 2 million ERCP procedures are done globally. Among those, about 700,000 cases in the US and about the same number also in Europe. If we talk about reimbursement in the US, the Medicare reimbursement for ERCP varies between $3,000 to $12,000 according to the patient situation and the given treatment. But we realize that this market, ERCP market, is also dominated by the private health insurance companies, and the reimbursement in this case are much higher, and we'll be able to leverage higher prices in this case.
What are the current prices of the catheter and the guide wire, and how are you going to price this kit?
Yeah, so the existing prices for catheter and guide wires, if to speak about a kit that combines those two elements, are about $500 to $550 per case or per kit. And according to doctors we speak with and also reimbursement experts we talk to, we will be able to mark up this price by 20 to 30%, taking into account the clinical value that we bring. But it's important to mention here that we are about to conduct a deeper health economic study to assure that we will be able to charge higher than existing products. We believe that, of course, but we want to ensure that through a serious health economic study.
And who are the main players in this market? How do you differentiate your solution from what they are currently selling?
Yeah, so there are plenty of players in this market, and the variance is like amazing, from big corporates like Boston Scientific, Olympus, Cook Medical, etc., to a small companies, very, very small companies. But if you look at the products that they develop, it's more or less the same. It's the same kind of catheter, same features, same kind of guide wires, more or less. So what we bring into the table is the uniqueness of overcoming hard anatomies with the very unique distal bending that we have to our catheter, and also the sensor-based guide wire, which eliminates the blindness of the procedure by sensing the fluids, and also the allowing the procedure to be, or allowing the cannulation part of the procedure to be fluoroscopy free. That's something that is very, very attractive to the industry, allowing to operate with pregnant women, for example. So these three things are very unique to our products, and they do not exist in the competition.
And how do you foresee your revenue 5 years from today? What would be your market share?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I mean, taking into account the existing market situation and talking 5 years later, we believe that we'll be able to take between 15 to 20% of the market. That's reflecting a annual revenue of about $100 million, both in the US and in Europe market.
Let's talk about money. Up until now, you raised $1.2 million. How much do you wish to raise moving forward, and what do you intend to do with this money?
Yeah, so up until now, we raised $1.2 million, mainly from the IIA, which is the Israel Innovation Authority, and also from the incubator and also the incubator partners, which includes one big strategic player in this market. We are aiming to raise $7 million, and this will allow us to fulfill the whole execution plan that I explained about, including completing the V&V for the SwiftDuct, doing the clinical trial and the FDA clearance for the SwiftDuct, and talking about the SwiftGlide, again, finish the development, passing all the safety V&V testing, going through a clinical trial, although it's not needed regulatory-wise, but we are aiming to do that, and finally clearing also the SwiftGlide by end of 26. So for all this, we'll need $7 million.
Are you currently in discussion with the potential strategic partners?
Yes, of course. We are currently in discussion with several potential partners. Those companies are big companies and considered to be leaders in the ERCP market. And there's great interest in our developments. We believe, once the development further continues and, we go closer to the market, the interest will be raised, within those strategic partners, and we'll be able to go into a more intensive collaboration or collaborative mode with those companies.
That sounds excellent. So let me try and summarize your achievements to date. You have a validated proof of concept on ERCP lab models and then in animal studies. You have a regulatory pathway, which is relatively straightforward.
Yes.
You're currently conducting a pilot clinical study. Let's call it an ex vivo clinical study. And what's nice about the product that you're developing is that you would probably be able to utilize available reimbursement codes, which means that time to market would be relatively short following regulatory approval.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to ask you, what are your main risks and challenges moving forward, and how do you plan to mitigate them?
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's a great question, Adi. So of course, in addition to all the, regular, let's call them R&D risks, I think the main risk that we anticipate is that, our sensors can fit all patient situations, all types of fluids, because different patients can have different situations. They can take, different types of medications that potentially affect the electrical properties of the fluids. I mean, what are we measuring? Overcoming this variance over patients is our greatest challenge. And what we do now is we just keep collecting data. We keep, teaching our sensors and our algorithms to deal with these kind of situations. And, we believe that at the end of the day, we'll be able to reach an optimum in the parameters that will allow us to, detect every fluid and in every patient.
Sensitivity and specificity will win the race.
Indeed.
Okay. Samer, we are nearing the end of our meeting, and I would like to ask how you want to summarize your mission.
Yeah, that's a great topic, Adi. And, being myself inside lots of operating rooms and seeing those patients that are about to go through ERCP, and even sometimes after ERCP with pancreatitis, and some of them are pretty young patients, seeing those patients suffer from pancreatitis, thinking about, what we can bring to those patients, saving their suffering, bring them their homes, to their families faster. This is something that we always think about. It's in our heart, and this is what makes us work harder towards achieving the next milestone and work to bring the technology to the market as soon as possible.
Samer, thank you so much for sharing the mission status of SwiftDuct with me. I hope this podcast will help you guys in your important journey. I hope that your system would help to prevent pancreatitis post-ERCP and all the suffering and costs it generates. For audience interested in learning more about the preclinical data generated by SwiftDuct, I recommend visiting their website. This podcast is available on my LinkedIn page and YouTube channel called The Healthcare Stage, and also on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. If you are working at companies developing novel solutions aimed at improving the lives of others, or you are a researcher in hospital or academia conducting groundbreaking research with potential clinical application, do get in touch with me at adi@thehealthcarestage.com. Samer, I hope the company will achieve all its milestones. Thank you so much for coming over. It was an honor and a pleasure.
Thank you, Adi. Pleasure is mine.